Okay, this is going to have to be the careful version. If you want the unedited version, go to subscribe. Sorry, you can watch it there. As someone points out, watching the mainstream media do their psyops, it's so freaking insanely obvious. Even if you're on the left, you got like if you're on the moderate left, you got to be kind of there's got to be some radar. Your radar has got to be registering some problems here. By now, you have to wake up to this kind of stuff. If you're really on the left and you're okay with everything that's going on, I, I mean, I just can't imagine that level of cognitive dissonance. As According points out, he says, with the title "Spreading False Rumors," it's like, well, it's kind of a false and rumors. It's kind of, I mean, it's already showing the bias. And you read through this article, the bias is insane. It's like they're not even trying to hide it with this article. We're actually going to have to go through I have to go through the whole thing because it's nonstop propaganda where like nobody knows what's going on. It's kind of the kind of thing it reminds me of where there was the furniture store was this hit YouTube like 2 years ago where a furniture store was coming out and selling unusual items for with unusual descriptions and amounts of money. And it wasn't that weird. It was that the mainstream media came out a couple hours after that story broke, and they came out and they said, "Oh no, this is all false." But you look at the mainstream media, like, but you didn't have time to investigate. How do you know it's false? That was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and that just creeped me out. Where you look at some of these conspiracy theory stuffs, and you see it's not. You don't have to look at the original underlying story, the veracity of it. It's to look at the mainstream narrative's response to it to tell you what they want you to look away from. And when the furniture store came out with those unusual $14,000 for a pair of shoes or an unusual piece of furniture, and the description was a bit off or something bizarre like that, and they came out a couple of hours later and said, "No, this has all been proved false." You're like, you don't do interviews in a couple of hours. It takes time to contact people. It takes days, maybe even more. It's like that set off all. I mean, that was like an eyes wide shut moment when they came out with that kind of thing. Anyway, and this is the same. I mean, this is so bizarrely glowing from orbit. This is incandescent. So Tim Pool is actually a CIA glow ninja Mexican Hugo Boss, says the globalists at the BBC. Or why you shouldn't trust the media or government, why you should immediately form local hiking clubs while it's still constitutionally protected activity. Be sure to join the Odyssey and the Subscribe Star. So what happened? Probably a mentally ill guy goes to a mall and deleted a bunch of people. Sorry for the insensitive euphemisms. It's because of YouTube. I have no option there. And some evidence is tying the guy to the Mexican mob, some sort of offshoot gang based on tattoos. And the left wing releases a tattoo, a photograph of him and his fresh Hugo Boss tattoos, except his head is clipped out of the photo, and which is weird because they said he's on some shady Russian website. And okay, so this is the juxtaposition where facts are not in accord with reality. They released this photograph of the guy without his head, and he has Hugo Boss tattoos, and they're fresh and perfect. Some would say they look either photoshopped or fake, but his head's not in the photo. So the one thing you'd need to identify him with, or the other tattoos, there's a tattoo that's missing from his neck, and that tattoo was older than the Hugo Boss tattoos, and his hand is not visible. So it's like you look at this and go, this could literally be anyone. It could also just be Photoshop because you have all the identifying markers removed. And the thing is, his neck is turned enough to see a tattoo, and that's missing. And the left wing looks at this and go, no, this is the guy. But the head, all identifying features have been removed from the photo. That doesn't make sense. The guy wasn't trying to hide his identity, according to the left wing narrative. He went to the shady Russian website and he gave them every piece of information. That's insane. It's a left wing narrative checklist. It's like 223, high cap mag, check. And then every piece, driver's license, passport, all this kind of nonsense, like geolocations from Google. Like, yes, Google tracks you. Faraday, hashtag look into Faraday cages for your phone. It's nonsense. I mean, it's bizarre. Like, he did everything, and he did it also on a shady Russian website. Nobody believes that. I mean, people believe stuff because they want to believe stuff. So they're saying that the narrative is that media comes out with a globalist narrative about his dossier, like all the information came out like a day after the event. Apparently, Mr. CIA Global MK Ultra had the Liberty device that the globalist lizards specifically want to ban. Oh, let me say this next part very carefully. The tool that helps dismantle, I wish I could edit, a tyrannical government. The tyrannical government wants to ban that specific tool. The founding fathers wanted you to have it in case the government became tyrannical, and now they want to remove your ability to remove tyranny. Second Amendment is not for hunting, and it's not for self-defense. It's for defense against tyranny. Surely you can make the connection there. Remember Biden? He threatened to bomb neighborhoods with stealth bombers. He actually said that. You can go search that online. That's something that a tyrannical government would say, to go to war against your own people, to take out one person or a few people and take out a whole neighborhood. What do you think? You're Obama? Yeah, that's the government that. To be fair, it's all U.S. presidents because they're not controlling themselves. This is the government that they warned us about. It was in 1913 with the Federal Reserve, and then 1914 with endless wars and the taxes that pay for them, and the devalue of the dollar, and in 1965 with hard seller. This is what's going on now is really, really bad. Like end of a nation type of bad, and people just want to watch. I just want to grill and watch sports ball and watch my prawn and play video games. Like, so they claimed that he was posting his manifesto on a shady Russian website, and it said exactly what the globalist narrative pushers wanted it to say. That this Tango, possibly Mexican gang member, was actually a Hugo Boss who went to a mall and deleted people, some of whom were also European. Though I think it was a mixed group of people. But I mean, that doesn't make sense. It's like you're saying he's a Mexican Hugo Boss who's doing what, a hate crime against everyone. He didn't go to a synagogue or a mosque or something, or even go down to the border, or he just went to a mall with the exact liberty device that your tyrannical government wants to remove, so you can't remove a tyrannical government. Yeah, that glows from effing orbit. He fired indiscriminately. Okay, so you're describing the actions of a crazy person, which in a country of a third of a billion people is like, could this been gang activity, a Mexican gang initiation thing, or something like that? Yeah, it could have been, or it could have been somebody who's just schizophrenic and hearing voices and go, oh, yeah, how come America doesn't have mental health services? Oh, it's all blamed on Ronald Reagan and the ACLU. So who was pulling the strings on the ACLU back then? And then why didn't anyone fix it? If it took one president to do this much damage, how come nobody went around and like fixed it and started bringing back mental health services? Because the ACLU didn't want mental health services. They want crazy people out on the streets. Oh, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Isn't all this kind of stuff weird? It is. It's really weird. Anyway, if you're crazy and you're listening to this, please do not do any of this kind of activity. Donate to my Subscribestar instead. I promise to make the bad voices go away for only $2 a month, which might be in bad taste, but I also know that no soy boys are tuned in. Anyway, so you got a crazy guy doing a crazy thing. In a country of a third of a billion people, there's going to be those kind of events, especially when you have Soros district attorneys and a catch and release policy where people can commit malum and say crimes over and over again and they're back on the street. What did you expect would happen? Because America doesn't punish crime anymore, and the globalists will increase violence until the people agree to give up the second and to create a federal police force and eventually a police force based on a planetary type of thing, where it's one group of people. What is it? What's on the dollar bill from many? No, well, remember what's on the back of a dollar bill? It's like, it's not from many one, e pluribus unum. It's the other phrase above that phrase on the dollar bill. So that's why it's catch and release. They want crime to get so bad that you'll beg for them to burn the Bill of Rights and live in a police state. There's no path forward with this. It's separate now or be slaves. That's not hyperbolic. You can hear me. You know I'm not crazy. The mass shootings will continue is a threat from the CIA, who is funding them, and from Soros, who is funding catch and release district attorneys. Where remember Kim Fox, $600,000 from him to put her in office, where two gangs got into it with each other in front of police who were filming the whole thing, and on camera, and you think, oh, it's kind of a slam dunk. She goes, no, it's mutual combat. Like, what is this, Montana in like 1850s? This is like, that's a, yeah, this is all happening all over America. It's in deep, deep trouble, and it's not going to get out of that trouble unless people all decide to, oh, like, this is it. This is the last clear chance to try to do something. Anyway, so this is all by design, which is why I mentioned that you need to form local hiking clubs while it's still constitutionally protected activity. Eventually, oh, here's our implied guy who commits large scale malum in say events. This little guy right here. Oh, what are you talking about? That I have the BBC tweet. I'll use it for they deleted it. I'll use it for the thumbnail. No, Tim Pool is not the guy who committed these acts. So the truth of the story, nobody knows. It's too soon to tell, but the shady Russian website says everything that the media wants it to say. He wasn't on Gab or on Telegram, Odyssey, Gab TV, BitChute, or Post or Poll or any of these other kind of sites. He was on a Russian. Did he speak Russian? I don't know. I mean, he spoke probably English and Spanish, so you're saying, he probably spoke Russian too. Yeah, no, this is all bull BS. None of this happened. Gab, Telegram, maybe even Discord temporarily, if you're very careful. This incandescent glows from orbit. We believe it because we want to believe it. But it came out like a day after. And remember those other shooters, the BLT girl who went to a school and did her thing? She deleted 6 Christians. So where's that manifest? Oh, the FBI hasn't released it yet. Oh, that's weird. What about the thing in Vegas? What about that? I mean, what about a lot of things? Oh, yeah, information's still not out on that. But the information on this came out the same day or a day later. Yeah, that's bullpucky. That's all bullpucky. So he was on a Russian website. Yeah, I don't believe the media or the government because they effing repeatedly lie. It's a good thing I can't swear on YouTube because it would just be non-stop swearing. Everything coming from the bullshit media is a narrative. This is why I kind of hesitate with the live streams because I would need a 7-second delay. Like, Fed post, you have to bleep that out. It would just be a non-stop bleeps. Only kidding, I would never Fed post. So I listen to them to know what the narrative is, not what the truth is. They're anti-white, they're anti-Christian, they're anti-nation. By now, you got to get comfortable saying that. The truth of this guy is slowly going to get Tim Pool pictured from 2012. God, this is the mainstream media. I mean, this is your mainstream. How do we know the account was his? I didn't put in airplane mode. I hope there's no pop-ups. The truth of this guy is slowly going to come out. He might just be insane. That's very much possible. Or he might be tied into a gang thing. But no, he's not Hugo Boss. That's the ramblings of the globalist media. They want... Don't you think it's a little odd? And what happened like the same day or the next day was there was a bunch of Mexicans were standing outside somewhere, and a drunk driver just took him out, and he crashed his car. It didn't. Who knows? Like, the truth of that matter, you'll never know. But it looked like a drunk driver who did something horrible because we live in a catch and release society, and he actually deleted a bunch of people. It was friggin' horrific. And the mainstream media starts to come out and go, another Hugo Boss attack on a bunch of migrants. You go, no, it wasn't. Why are you saying that? Because the media is not the media. The media hasn't been the media in at least 50 years, probably more like 100. Anyway, no, he's not Hugo Boss. That's just insane. The 80s Satanism type of stuff, that was cool in the 80s. The stars and the pentagram, all that kind of stuff with the rock bands. And now the aesthetics of Hugo Boss is cool. There are too many hot words that go into that kind of thing to really go into. I wish I could have the discussion, but the symbol, and I don't even want to show the guy's tattoos because they're what you'd expect. I mean, they're precisely the symbols you'd expect, which are how do I carefully say this? Which are not what the far right uses. There's a lot of other symbol like Norse symbology and Mediterranean symbology that the right wing uses, like that specific Hugo Boss type of symbology. It's not exactly LARPing. It's just people think it's cool. So like, yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's just like it's the most badass thing they can think of because the narrative is such that it's like the greatest evil known to man. And you look at it objectively, and you're like, that doesn't make sense. It's not even in the top 10. But then to think you're going to go against the narrative, it's like why homeschooling is the only path forward. Anyway, no, he wasn't Hugo Boss. People like the aesthetics of those symbols, um, and they're cool to many groups of people who even it wouldn't even make sense for it to be cool to. But that's not the motive because otherwise he would have hit a different target. He was probably just hearing voices that his CIA handlers were sending him. Anyway, the narrative is that he got radicalized by Libs of TikTok, who is a Jewish lady who's against the kitty type of sacrifices to Moloch that is being going. I mean, we're living through effing biblical times here. This stuff is so evil that it will have you looking to religion and starting to wonder maybe there's something to it. You start cracking open the New Testament and whatever. Anyway, you can check out her Telegram, Twitter, and website. She does good work. And Tim Pool is a middle of the road guy who lately has been asking the right questions and getting closer to the target. That's why the mainstream media is trying to destroy him. That's the thing with these two. If the machine wants to destroy them and they get kicked off the mainstream, well, they're dangerous to the narrative. Tim has a huge live stream and he's becoming a little bit of a loose cannon, so he must be destroyed. And Libs of TikTok is she's something that just took off. And who's that? God, who was that girl at the Washington Post? Jeff Bezos, Amazon's Washington Post. I forget that woman's name. Who went after her and her family. And Libs of TikTok just blew up and got to 1 million followers. And like Elon Musk buying Twitter is changing the game radically. And like where Elon Musk is politically, like where his mind is, I don't know. I don't know. But like the Tim Pool and Libs of TikTok, those are really moderate, middle of the road people, which is like, but they also have a huge following for people across the spectrum, and so it's like in the middle of the political bell curve, which is why the machine has to destroy them because they're not on the far right, but they're moderate and they're appealing to a lot of people on the left, and the machine has to destroy them, which is why they publish these kind of hit pieces. And in these kind of hit pieces, I mean, this stuff is so obvious. It's insane. You go like, but this discredits you. They know that, but they also know that people are such sheep that they never stop to think and reach a conclusion, which is very difficult for people to reach. Go like, oh wait, are you saying like seriously? In all seriousness, the media and the government are completely untrustworthy, and they're running psyops, and they have. I'll say this very carefully, interests adverse to you. Yes, it's hard for high trust people to accept that. Like they're the can I say they're the enemy? Yes. Yes. And they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And the best thing for all of us would be if Tim got kicked off of YouTube and he went to like Twitter's got a new live streaming type of thing. I think Tucker Carlson's going to go on there. Odyssey has got live stream. So does Rumble. Again, I know Gab and Gab TV is a very tiny platform, but if he could get live streaming on there, that would be the best premier live streaming platform because it is a free speech platform. Where it like no, Twitter is not going to be a free speech platform. Neither is Odyssey or Rumble. They're better speech, but they're not free speech platforms. Not even close. Gab would allow all legally protected, constitution protected speech would be allowed on Gab because Torba is like that. Anyway, so the best thing would be for everyone, like all these mainstream people to get kicked off of YouTube and go into these alt platforms, because getting people, we gotta at least start getting people to try to get off the Google plantation a little bit, and to get to alt media to try to get like I will say Rumble and Odyssey are doing very well. Rumble's kind of like a gateway for a lot of gateway to the far right. Yeah, the far right extremists at Rumble. Rumble's still going through the App Store, so it's not based or anything. Odyssey's a step above it, but even Odyssey kicks people off. Like, I mean, they kicked off shit. What's that guy's name? John Handsome Truth. They kicked him off of Odyssey because he was just too hot a prospect for people. It's like so that's not really good to learn that Odyssey doesn't value free speech. They say they do, but but they don't actually value free speech. It sure would be nice to have a platform that has free speech and is also have payment processors. Like, yeah, the machine won't allow that to happen. I'm trying to say that like we're already enslaved. Like the cage is around you, but you're living in so much fog that you don't see the cage. It's the cage is just outside the visibility of the fog. So you're walking through this fog, and sometimes the cage can move with you, but it's like we're in this cage, and it's not like wishing it to go away is not going to make it go away. It has to be dismantled and deconstructed. So I think this was careful enough. Support me on Subscribestar. Not vegan, you've done enough. And I will see you guys all next episode.